going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. Today we have another Pro Tips episode, this time with returning guest Frank, aka Surgical Goblin. So guys, today we're going to talk about the Giant Skeleton. Now Frank has been relentlessly sending me DMs on Twitter saying, hey, I love Giant Skeleton. Hey, I love Giant Skeleton. I love him in this deck. I love him in that deck. So I said, you know what, dude? You gotta come on, you gotta share some of your favorite Giant Skeleton decks, and of course, your favorite Giant Skeleton tips. So guys, what do you say? Let's go ahead and bring him in. So without further ado, I present to you none other than Surgical Goblin. So I am back with none other than Frank, aka Surgical Goblin. Frank, welcome back to the channel, man.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
And now you're a YouTube star, my friend. So congratulations on your huge success on your channel. Why don't you tell people what the name of your channel is? Well, it's pretty obvious, but how they can find you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's just Surgical Goblin.
Yeah, so. Just Surgical Goblin. And what kind of content do you do there?
I'm trying to bring educational content. For example, me explaining decks, or I also did a video about my level 1 account being almost in Royal Arena, so that was pretty interesting, but overall just like educational content.
Nice, man. Yeah, I checked out almost all your videos now, and I really love the content, so people should definitely check you out. I'll make sure I include the information to subscribe and check out maybe your most recent video in the description for this video, so you guys can all check that out. But the reason I have you on today is because you tweeted at me a picture of a deck that you were having a lot of success with, actually 2 decks, and they both included an interesting card that I think a lot of folks out there are really going to enjoy, and that card is the Giant Skeleton. So can you tell us a little bit maybe about what is your overall feelings on the Giant Skeleton? Why have you started using him, and what do you think his strengths and weaknesses are in general before we delve into these 2 decks?
Yeah, so the Giant Skeleton, defensively, it can be really good because his bomb, when he dies, he leaves a bomb, or he drops a bomb, I mean. And that bomb can basically blow up anything except for high HP units, for example, a bowler, or it doesn't really affect the Giant. But stuff like a Mega Minion and Musket and those kind of troops, he will just annihilate. And offensively, it can be really good to bait out, for example, an Inferno. And then I also used a Giant Skeleton Hulk Rider deck. So if you can bait out their Inferno with your Giant Skeleton, your Hulk has a free way to go. So that also really worked out well for me.
Okay, so where do you see the Giant Skeleton fitting in the current meta right now? Like, why do you think you're having success with him? Because, you know, maybe a few weeks ago it seemed like, you know, or a month ago it seemed like almost nobody was using Giant Skeleton. And now you're starting to see him here and there. Why do you think that he's entered the arena, so to speak?
I think people are starting to use him more because there are, for example, the Mega Minion can't lure it. And people have either arches or tombstone, and a tombstone you can lock pretty much, and arches can also be taken out pretty easy. And then if they can't lure your Giant Skeleton, it can go on the tower and the bomb does like 900 damage, so that's crazy.
Yes, that it definitely is. And you talked about those level 1 accounts, and I just shared a video on level 1 accounts too. And you know what? The Giant Skeleton is one card that almost every single one of those decks actually had in it. So it just goes to show how strong of a force it can be defensively and offensively, even if it's level 1 because of that big bomb damage that it has. So before we talk about the 2 decks that you shared with us today that folks are actually watching right now as we talk, why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, let's say someone's just playing their type of archetype. Let's say they're a beatdown player. Where would you recommend players start when they look into a place to add the Giant Skeleton to a deck that they're already having success with? Like, what type of deck is a good beginner deck for Giant Skeleton?
I think Giant Skeleton can definitely like be a tank, for example, in a beatdown deck. But also, as I just said, like sort of a bait, as I just mentioned, the Inferno bait. So a Hulk Rider deck can also be really good. I don't really see it as like the main tank, for example, as a Golem. I don't really see the Giant Skeleton, but paired with another good card, for example, the Hulk Rider or three muskets behind or something like that, it is a really good card. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I think the first question would be, okay, I want to build a giant skeleton deck, so how do I build a supporting cast around that giant skeleton to help support it? And I think it's important that in both of these decks that you're sharing right now, the giant skeleton isn't necessarily either your tank or your win condition. It's almost like a secondary card in both these decks. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And also, sorry, but also sometimes you can surprise people by playing a giant skeleton. For example, I took down a tower, the left tower, and then you can place giant skeleton in the middle, and then if they don't expect it, giant skeleton can go to the tower and then exactly drop a bomb on the tower. So it's also a really good surprise card.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you might hold back the giant skeleton until you get a tower down and then surprise them with it?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so why don't we talk a little bit about the two decks? Actually, one more question for you before we get into the two decks is any common mistakes with Giant Skeleton that you see? I mean, a lot of people aren't playing Giant Skeleton. Some people, it's probably been a while since they have. What are some common errors that you see people using the Giant Skeleton?
Yeah, definitely overcommitting on offense, so that they're committing too much elixir on the push, but Giant Skeleton can also be distracted pretty easy, so they can also make a positive elixir trade on you, so you definitely don't want to overcommit on offense and spend too much elixir.
Okay, so let's talk about the first deck that you shared with us, which is the Hog Rider deck. You already stated, basically what this deck is trying to do. It's trying to bait out the Inferno Tower if they have it. You have the Hog Rider as your main win condition. It has a lot of cycle potential. It's a relatively cheap deck, given that it does have that 6 Elixir Giant Skeleton in it. Tell us a little bit more about this deck. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to cycle Hog Rider? What are you trying to do with this deck here?
Yeah, with that deck, I'm definitely trying to use Giant Skeleton either as a bait or as a tank for my Hog Rider. And for example, if I face Barbarians, I will go with Giant Skeleton and Hog Rider, and they most likely will drop Barbarians behind the Giant Skeleton because they don't want them Barbarians die to my Giant Skeleton bomb. So then my Hog Rider has a free way to the tower, and the Hog Rider DPS is pretty high, so my Hog Rider can just chip away at their tower.
Okay, what would your ideal push be on this deck? Would it be Hog Rider, with let's pretend that you didn't have the giant let's pretend that you did have the giant skeleton up. Are you obviously trying to use the lightning spell with the Hog Rider and like say an Ice Spirit or something like that? Or I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious now that I ask it what your main push is going to be here. Depending on what the opponent has, you're going to be comboing the giant skeleton or log or whatever with lightning and Hog Rider, right?
Yeah, exactly. Most of the times I would just either see how they react and then adjust my push on their reaction the last time.
Okay, so what about defensively? Talk a little bit about using the Giant Skeleton defensively. Are you using him pretty often? Do you find yourself using him equally offense and defensively, or more defensively, or how often are you using him in both these decks?
Pretty equal. Actually, I really like to use Giant Skeleton defensively if I face a beatdown deck. So if they, for example, push with Giant, Musket and Mega Minion, I like to put down my 6 Elixir Giant Skeleton, and it will blow up and then kill the Musket, hit the Giant and kill the Mega Minion as well. And with an extra Tombstone, I countered the Giant push. Giant is 5, Musket is 4 and Mega Minion is 3. So that makes it 12 Elixir, and I countered that with 9. So if I keep doing it like that, I will put myself in a really good situation, and then eventually I will use Giant Skeleton offensively.
Very nice, very nice. I like that idea of just continuing to almost collect those small elixir advantages throughout the match and then capitalizing, when the opponent probably suspects that you have less elixir than you do, just making that big counter push,
Yeah, exactly.
Big fan of that. Okay, so let's move on to the other deck here. The other deck is obviously the 3 Musketeer deck, and very interesting deck here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do and how the Elixir Pump and the Barbarian Hut kind of play along in the overall strategy along with the 3 Musketeers and the Giant Skeleton?
So yeah, that deck I made is really interesting because it is really high cost, but it also has the 2 1 Elixir cards in it. And I definitely don't like to put down Collector right away because you make yourself really vulnerable to a big push or just a single Hulk Rider and not be able to defend it. So I like to put my Barbarian Hut because it's really high HP, and it is also really good, for example, against Golem and Hulk Rider. And then I will try to either bait out Fireball or Lightning. You see those pretty often in this meta. And then when I'm up Elixir, I will drop my Collector to even build up a bigger Elixir advantage. And then most of the times I will put my 3 Muskets down when it's overtime, and I will go with a double lane push, and I will most likely put my Giant Skeleton in front of the single Musket, and then put Ice Spirit after my double Muskets.
Nice. That seems like it could be an absolute lethal combination, especially if you have your Barbarian Hut down, because you'll have, naturally you'll have the Barbarians tanking for one of the split Musketeers, and then you can plop down the Giant Skeleton, and I don't know what the defender's going to do in that situation.
Yeah, most of the time, exactly, I 3-crown them by overwhelming them because I have such a big Elixir advantage. So yeah, it's a really nice deck in my opinion.
Now, how do you feel about the pump right now? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I get kind of excited when I see my opponent plays the pump because I'm like, ooh, really? Playing the Elixir pump, it's not too strong right now. I think maybe it's in line for a buff coming soon. We'll have to see because it seems like, the play went from almost everybody using it to almost nobody using it. So what do you feel about it? I mean, when are you playing the pump? You already said you're not going to start out a match with a pump.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you have to place the pump when you either baited out, for example, a rocket or anything like that, or when you're, for example, up 3 Elixir, you can place it down without putting yourself in a really bad situation, getting Hulk Ridered or anything.
Yeah, and me too is what I do is I don't play it often, but when I do, I tend to wait for my opponent to commit to one of my towers, and then I'll play the pump behind the safe tower,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, I wanted to ask you, before I let you go here, because I know you're kind of limited on time here. It's late where you are right now. So I wanted to ask, you played 2 Pro vs. Pro matches, one against Electrify, one against Colton W. You swept both matches, so you're 6-0 right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, correct.
So who do you want to call out next? Out of anybody in the game, is there somebody that you want a Pro v Pro on my channel next against?
Yeah, I would love to face Jordan from your clan, actually, Elite Gaming.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of comments about it, and I also talked with Jordan on Twitter, and he's such a nice guy, so I would definitely love to face him in one of your Pro vs. Pro.
That would be really cool, and I think he said bring it. I think he's down. So
yeah.
So maybe we'll try to make that happen. I think it would be really awesome for a Surgical Goblin versus Jordan, Pro v Pro. Guys, if you want to see that, let us know. If there's anybody else that you want to see Surgical Goblin go up against, let us know in the comments, and maybe we can make it happen. I don't want to speak for you, Surgical, but I think you're pretty much game with anybody, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I like it, man. So, best of luck to you and your YouTube channel. Again, everybody should check you out. Amazing gameplay, the highest of high-level gameplay in terms of strategy and breaking down a match. You definitely have a knack for it, my friend. So, best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much for your support, man.
No problem.
You're such an awesome guy.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and you're gonna do very well. You're gonna do very well for yourself. So thanks for coming on, telling us a little bit about Giant Skeleton and about how to play him in these decks. I look forward to hopefully another Pro v Pro and another Pro Tips episode in the future with you.
Okay, guys. If anyone has questions for me, hit me up on Twitter @Surgical Goblin. My DMs are always open to answer you guys. And take care.
And there you have it, guys, another Pro Tips interview in the books. Thank you so much for watching. Have you heard my other Pro Tip videos for Clash Royale? If you haven't, or maybe you've missed one, I'll include the playlist for you guys to check out every single one of my guests. And, you can pick out your favorite type of deck that you want to learn more about, and they should all be sorted there by deck in the title as well. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, take care, guys.